Water circuit. The water circuit is critical. We have to have water in our material to be able to move the material from point A to point B. We need to break surface tension. If the surface, the asphalt is too hot, we need to break surface tension. We use sprinklers to be able to do that. Water is a critical element. However, we only want as much, just enough to get by, right? We want just enough water to do the work. So this is a critical circuit. We talked about the tank itself is the other half of the emulsion tank. So it's built as one tank with a solid divider in the center, and we have these two circuits. So we've got water on this side. I've got a fill pipe on the front. The fill pipe comes up. I've got a check valve on the bottom, so when I disconnect my hose, I don't soak my feet with the water coming out of the S-pipe. So that's the check valve right here. The S-pipe comes up and it drops into the tank. It is an open fill because we have pressurized systems on the if we're filling off of a fire hydrant. We could, if we were connected directly into this, and we weren't paying attention, we could damage this tank by over-pressurizing this large surface area. Even though there's a tremendous amount of structure on the inside, it could still damage it. So with the top drop fill, we can fill this tank, and if it overfills, it'll just flow over the outside because there is an air gap from the top of the S-pipe to the top of the tank where it's dropping in. So we don't run the risk of overpressurizing the water tank and maybe damaging a weld or something structurally. So that's the tank. We've got the same float on here that's giving us our indicator. We've got this nice lasered indicator scale, so we can look at it and see where we're at, how much water we have in the tank versus climbing up and having to look inside. We can see it externally. We have opportunities for high-low sensors in case the customer wants to order that feature. We have those options built into the scale part of it. Underneath the tank, we have an external drain port that we can use if we need to just drain water out of the tank. Very handy at the end of the season where we need to empty, or if we're having to transport. We don't want to haul this machine loaded. We can easily open this and just drain the water out. We have a supply side valve that feeds the impeller pump. On the back side, there is a 1/4 inch line that dumps in you'll see that the line comes in to the pressure side of the impeller. The reason for that is, and that must be kept open during normal operation. This pump sits here and runs at high RPM at 110 PSI, and if I've got the pump turned on and I let it sit here for a period of time without flowing any water through it, we can boil the water inside that tank, or inside that pump. It gets so hot. With that bleed line, it allows it to constantly be pushing water out and drawing some cool water in. It gives us long life without causing any damage to the water pump. Now it is an impeller pump. So we have the supply line coming into it. We have the bleed line on it. On the supply side, right here inside the tank where the supply side comes in, is a foot valve. That is a filtered valve on the inside that prevents us from getting any sort of contaminated material from the water tank into the water pump. These machines operate in residential areas very frequently, and it is a common issue for these things to be running into, with low-hanging tree limbs, and we will get contaminants that get forced into the system from time to time. This protects the water pump system from having any challenges. Now, on the outlet side of the water, there are two different circuits. There is the circuit that feeds the pug mill. That is controlled by an air actuator. So when we operate in the back to turn on any sort of functions, the air actuator opens and allows high flow water to get to the pug mill to run our material mix. Prior to that, there's a T in here, and that T feeds the sprinklers and the hand wand. So if we've got a garden hose up their hand wand where they need to wet down the burlap of the spreader box, or if they need to pre-wet the surface as they're backing into it, they can do a little bit of that where the truck may not actually cover that, so sprinklers aren't going to get to it. They'll pre-wet a surface with the garden hose when they're doing that part of it. The sprinklers allow me to run the front spray bar sprinkler, tire sprinklers, or left seam, right seam sprinklers. When we get into operation, we'll explain the purposes of the left seam, right seam. Tire sprinklers, if I'm backing into material that we've laid, we might want to wet the tires so it won't pick up the material, less likely, so it's easier to back into it and out without causing an issue. And the front spray bar is primarily just for breaking surface tension. I want a super hot surface, I want to be able to take little bit of water down to it to kind of cool that down just slightly, so as we're going over it, the material has an opportunity to bond. Water circuit, we've got this diaphragm, opens and closes. There are only 2 air circuits on this entire machine, the water diaphragm and the additive circuit diaphragm. And we'll talk about the air circuit as well, but those are operated by these 2 red dot solenoids that are on the top. Those are the only 2 air circuits in this entire system. They're tapped into the air tanks on the truck. We have air protection, so the truck always gets priority. So if there's an airline leak, blown hose of some sort, the truck will always get priority and it'll shut off our system. So we've got those protections in place because this is an on-highway vehicle. So the air circuit, we've got the valve opens. We've got a couple different drain ports in here. If we need to bleed air out of the circuit, we have 2 different places we can do that. If we ran it dry, we need to get air out to get an impeller going, we can take care of that. That water flows up through a line on the other side of the conveyor and above the conveyor along the side of the hopper, and it goes back to feed a paddle wheel meter, so it's very good accuracy, the paddle wheel meter, and after the paddle wheel meter is the diaphragm water valve. It's a very accurate valve, so when we dial the water flow to whatever percentage, it's going to maintain that to a high level of accuracy. If you try to do that with a ball valve or some sort of other valve, it's not going to adjust well, and you're not going to have the control that we do with that valve. We'll show a picture of that in a moment. Water circuit, the hydraulic motor that drives this is a bent axis motor. Being a bent axis motor, it is designed for high RPMs, and we don't have the block lift issues we have with an inline motor. An inline motor, when I run high RPMs, the cylinder block will tend to want to canter off at an angle and will start to cause issues. This was already built at an angle, so it's designed for that high RPM that gives us the high flow, high pressure for our water circuit. There is a check valve built into the plumbing of the hydraulics. Because this is running high RPM, when we turn it off, we don't want it to deadhead. That could be very damaging to your hydraulic system. The check valve allows it to freewheel down, but it won't go the opposite direction. It runs one single direction. So there's a check valve in here. Extremely rare that we'd run into it, but you need to know about it in the event there is a failure that does happen, but it's rare. The couplings that are on this motor and also the additive motor, those are rubber inserted couplings. Those need to be adjusted with a 1/16 inch play on the rubber insert. If you have it too tight, it'll actually burn up those inserts and cause premature failure. We need just a little bit of float on there. Those rubber inserts take away a lot of shock loading and minor misalignment to give us longevity out of the componentry. That's our water pump.